Hey guys, tonight we journey into a world you think you know, but trust me, you don't. You've heard of knights, of soldiers, of brave men standing guard on castle walls through rain and snow. But tonight, we're not joining them on the battlefield. We're slipping into their barracks, into the stone chambers they called bedrooms, and we're lying down shoulder to shoulder, boot to boot, to discover how they slept. Because the question is simple. How did medieval soldiers sleep in medieval castles without freezing to death? And the answer, well, it's not about comfort. It's about strategy, endurance, and the dark, slightly grimy art of barely surviving the night. Before we begin this slow journey through straw-cold feet and torch-lit silence, do me a quiet favor, like subscribe and leave a comment telling me what time it is where you're listening. I read them all while wrapped in a blanket that's much thicker than anything our soldiers had. Now dim your lights. Maybe turn on a fan for that soft, medieval howling wind effect. And let's lie down beside tonight's story. Tonight's journey. How did medieval soldiers sleep in medieval castles without freezing to death? It's not romantic. It's not brave. It's not warm. You're going to feel the cold in your teeth. You're going to smell the straw, the mold, and the centuries-old sweat. And you're going to understand finally that sleeping through the night was sometimes the hardest part of war. Because these men didn't have privacy. They didn't have fireplaces. They didn't have duvets or heaters or hot tea at midnight. They had lice. They had rot. They had rats. And still they slept. Sometimes in shifts, sometimes in armor, sometimes so close to death they didn't realize they were freezing until morning. So pull the blanket up to your chin, press play, and prepare to tuck yourself in on a thin mat of straw, with 50 other snoring, coughing, freezing bodies. We're heading inside the barracks now, where sleep isn't rest, it's survival. You wake up and immediately wish you hadn't. Not because of fear, not because of pain, because of cold. Because it is so cold you forget for a moment how to breathe. You're lying on your side, curled into yourself like a dog. Your nose is pressed into rough, dirty wool, not a pillow, not even a blanket. Just your own cloak stiff from dried sweat and nights of breath and frost. The first thing you feel is numbness. Your toes don't exist. Your fingers, you're not sure they ever did. The air around you is frozen still, not moving, not flowing. Just hanging there, sharp and ancient. You open your eyes, it's dark. Not nighttime dark, barracks dark. The kind of darkness that feels thick, like a wall of sleep you're trying to push through. You hear breathing, lots of it. Some fast, some slow. Someone snores nearby, wet, heavy rattling like an old man's lungs. Another man coughs, deep, violent. He spits onto the stone floor. You hear it hit with a soft pat. You're not alone. 50 men. Maybe more. Packed shoulder to shoulder on the floor of a long, low hall tucked inside the castle walls, the soldiers' quarters. You can't move without touching someone. Your elbow is jammed into the ribs of the man next to you. Your legs are tangled with someone else's. Someone's foot is resting on your ankle bare. Cold. Clammy. You don't bother pushing it away. It's too much effort. Besides, he's not awake yet. And you know better than to wake a man before dawn, especially a soldier, especially in winter. You look up. The ceiling is beams and blackness. A single slit in the wall lets in the barest gray light. It's not sunrise yet. but the night is retreating slowly, like a dying animal crawling back into its den. You shift. Big mistake. The straw beneath you crunches, and not in a good way. It's damp. It's old. It's moving. You try not to think about it. You hope it's just your imagination. You hope the twitch near your leg was just a shift in the hay, not a rat or a flea or something worse. You shift again. You feel your joints creak like old wood. Everything hurts. Your back, your hips, your neck twisted from sleeping with your arm as a pillow. You're not injured, just alive in a medieval winter. And you're lucky, some of the men have frostbite. You've seen the toes turn black. You've heard the groaning in the morning as someone realizes the pain in his foot isn't pain anymore, it's nothing. Because in this world, sleep is dangerous. You never know if you'll wake up cold or not wake up at all. A few weeks ago, one of the boys, not even 17, fell asleep, too close to the outer wall. No blanket. Just his cloak, his breath, and a half-full belly. He didn't wake up. They didn't even bury him properly. Just burned the body. Said it was best he'd started to turn blue by the time they found him. And you're still here. Still breathing. Your breath fogs the air in front of your face. It hangs there, white, misty, curling like a ghost in the barracks light. Someone groans beside you. A hand reaches up and scratches something vigorously. You hear the soft pop of knuckles. A sigh. One by one, the others start to stir. Not rise, just shift. Groan. Resent the morning. You all know what's coming. Another day of labor, of drills, of cold. But first, you have to actually get up. You throw the cloak off. It peels away like a crust. The air bites you instantly through your linen undershirt, through your hose, through every single regret you've ever had about becoming a soldier. You sit up. Your body protests. Your skin crawls. Your knees crack. You're not old. But in this room, in this cold, in this body, you feel older than stone. You look around. A few candles are burning at the far end of the room. Nubs on a wooden ledge. They don't give light. Just a color, a vague orange blur in the dark. You see boots, lined against the wall. Damp, cracked. You pray yours are still dry. You doubt they are. You see a pile of gear in the corner. Weapons, armor, belts, cloaks, all frozen stiff. You reach down and touch your own boots, hard, cold, shrunken from the frost. You sigh. You pull them on anyway. Your feet scream. You don't care. Because this is the job. This is the life. And there's no fire waiting for you. No breakfast tray. No soft robe and slippers. There's just the smell of sweat and mildew, the groans of men rising, the scratch of lice, and the wind outside the door rattling the latch like it wants in. But you're not dead. Not yet. And in this world, that's a victory. You stand, you stretch, you look toward the door, and you whisper to no one in particular. Let it not be colder than yesterday. Spoiler. It always is. The barracks are awake now, sort of. No one's talking. No one's smiling. But eyes are open, and men are moving stiffly, slowly, each one dragging his body through the early chill like it weighs twice what it did last night. You're on your feet. Kind of. The boots are on. Your legs don't work properly yet. Your knees ache in a way that feels permanent. You're hungry. But not just hungry, medieval soldier hungry. The kind of hunger that lives under your ribs and flares up every time someone else unwraps a bit of bread. You haven't eaten since sundown yesterday, and that wasn't much. So now you head to the mess area, if you can call it that. It's not a dining room. It's not even a room. It's a long wooden table in a covered stone alcove near the courtyard, with a barrel of ale, a basket of hard bread, and a boiling pot of something. You approach the table. The smell hits you first. Boiled grain, salt, fat. Sometimes you can't tell what you're smelling, and that's not always a bad thing. Today's breakfast, a thick pottage, mostly barley, sometimes oats, a bit of onion if you're lucky, a scrap of salted pork if the kitchen likes you. Usually they don't. You grab your bowl, a wooden thing that looks like it used to be a helmet. You don't care. The cook ladles the slop in with one hand, scratches his armpit with the other. He doesn't break eye contact. It's unsettling. You sit on a bench with 20 other men and begin the ritual. Eat fast. Don't breathe through your nose. Chew even if it doesn't need chewing. Swallow hard. Don't look in the bowl. The bread, hard as a shield. You soak it in the pottage until it stops resisting. You eat that too. A few men sip from their tin cups, ale watered down warm. Some prefer water. They're the risky ones. You glance at the water barrel. It's murky. There's a leaf floating in it. And maybe a beetle. Or something that used to be a beetle. You stick with the ale. At least it's boiled. No one speaks. Mornings are for eating, not for talking. The only sounds are slurps, gulps, coughs, and the occasional throat clear that turns into a full-body spasm. One man sneezes into his bowl. No one moves. You all pretend it didn't happen. You finish. You wipe your mouth with your sleeve. You pass your bowl to the boy, collecting them in a stack that somehow never stays clean. And now, it's time to get clean. Well, cleaner. You don't get a bath. You don't get soap. You get a bucket. One bucket, set in the middle of the barracks, filled with water hauled from the nearest well and left to sit overnight. It's icy. You can see your reflection in the surface just before someone dunks their rag into it and clouds it up. You wait your turn. When it's time, you kneel. You dip your hands in. They go numb instantly. You splash your face. It burns, then tingles, then nothing. You rub your armpits with a rag that might be yours. You scrub behind your ears, not for cleanliness, but because it's expected. You splash again. You try not to notice the color of the water anymore. You don't wash your feet, not unless you're desperate. The bucket is already gray and sloshing with the grime of 20 men. Your teeth, no brushes, no paste. Some men chew on twigs. Others rub ashes on their fingers and scrub. You do neither today. Your mouth already tastes like barley and regret. You spit. You stand. You're done. No towel. You wipe your face on your sleeve. That's hygiene in the castle barracks. But there's one last part. The itch. The lice. Everyone has them. You scratch at your collar, your thigh, the edge of your scalp under your linen coif. Some men shave their heads to fight it. Others just live with the crawl. There are powders, herbs, a vinegar wash if the healer remembers you. But mostly, you deal with it. It's just part of being alive here. And now you're dressed. You're fed. You're clean enough. And the sun is rising. You take a deep breath of morning air. It smells like wet stone body odor and faintly of yesterday's waste. You head to the yard. Drills begin soon, but you've survived the first challenge of the day. Eating, washing, not dying of exposure. And in this world, that's a small miracle. You don't think much about clothing in the modern world. You get dressed, you change, you layer up when it's cold. But in a medieval castle, your clothing is more than just protection. It's your blanket, your pillow, your armor against the night. Let's start with what you wear. Your first layer is always linen. A shirt, thin, itches slightly, smells like smoke and sweat. You haven't changed it in days, weeks. You've stopped counting. Everyone smells. Everyone's skin is stained with something: soot, grease, blood from a scraped knuckle. The linen sticks to your back when you sweat. Freezes when you don't. Over that comes wool. Your tunic, thick, roughly woven, dyed a muddy brown or faded red. You might have a belt. You might not. Your hose wool again. They itch like punishment. Pulled tight over your legs and tied at the waist with cords. Your boots, if they're still holding together, are leather. Cracked. Mended with string in places. You stuff them with straw sometimes. It helps. And then, your cloak. It's your best friend. Heavy, scratchy, smells like horses and old rain. You wear it by day. You sleep under it by night. You curl into it when the wind howls through the barracks window slit, and your bones feel like glass. If you're lucky, you have a hat. Wool again. If not, you pull your cloak over your head. You sleep in everything. You don't undress at night. There's no nightshirt, no change of clothes. You just lie down in whatever you wore during the day, unless you're soaked, in which case, you sleep wet. Because what's the alternative? Taking your clothes off and exposing your skin to the freezing air? No. You cling to warmth however you can. And now the barracks. It's not what you think. There are no cozy bunks, no soft beds, no warm hearth crackling with firewood. It's a long stone room, low ceiling, one window slit, one door. Maybe a torch on the wall if you're lucky. Usually not even that. The walls weep with moisture. In the winter that turns to ice. The floor is stone. You sleep on straw mats, laid in rows. Some directly on the stone. Some raised slightly on wooden planks if someone was clever enough to build them. The straw smells like mold, because it's moldy, because it's damp, because it's filled with lice. You share your space. 2 men to a mat, sometimes 3. You don't get to choose your bunkmate. You just hope he doesn't snore, or cough all night, or grind his teeth, or worse, toss in his sleep and hit you square in the face. There are no blankets, not unless you brought your own from home. And even then, you don't show it off. You'll wake up and find it missing, stolen in the night by a colder man with fewer morals. So you sleep curled up, back to back, knees to chest, arms pulled in, boots still on, breath fogging the air between your lips. It's like sleeping inside a stone box, someone buried in frost. And if the wind shifts outside, you feel it. You wake up to ice on your cloak, to frost on your eyelashes, to the sound of someone shivering so hard it sounds like they're rattling their own ribs loose. Sometimes men sleep in armor, not by choice, because they're on guard rotation, or drills are at dawn, or the captain has one of his moods and demands everyone be ready before the sun even touches the chapel spire. Sleeping in armor is indescribable. The padding sticks to you. The leather straps dig into your shoulders. Your arms fall asleep before you do. And when you wake up, you have bruises from sleeping. Shelter is not safety here. The barracks offer walls, yes, but they hold the cold in not out. There's no insulation. The wind whistles through cracks. Rain seeps in from the roof. Snow drifts in under the door some nights. And fire, there's no fireplace in here. Too dangerous, they say. Too many men. Too much straw. One spark and the whole lot of you burn before you can even roll off your mats. So instead, you huddle. Together. That's how you survive. You sleep close. Sometimes against someone you don't even like. But at night, when your feet are numb and your spine aches, even your worst enemy's body heat is welcome. And if you're too proud to huddle, you wake up colder. Colder than you thought possible. And maybe, just maybe, you don't wake up at all. Because in winter, death doesn't come with a sword. It comes with a long, slow drain of body heat, of feeling, of memory. And it starts when you're too proud to share a blanket that isn't even there. So when lights go out in the barracks, when the captain gives the nod, when the last torch is extinguished and the room breathes in together one last time, you lie down, fully clothed, shoulder to shoulder, breath to breath, and you sleep, not comfortably, not peacefully, not even deeply. You sleep enough, just enough to survive another night. And in this castle, that's all anyone dares ask for. There's no alarm bell in the barracks, just the captain's boot thudding against the plank by the door. One strike. Two. A third if he's in a generous mood. Today, you get two. You sit up fast because if you don't, you'll be on latrine duty before your boots hit the floor. The air is sharp. Your breath fogs. The man beside you groans. Another curses. But you're already reaching for your belt. Your shoulders ache from sleeping on stone. Your knees complain. Your back is tight. You stand. And just like that, the day has begun. No breakfast. Not yet. You go straight to formation in the courtyard. Cold wind slicing across the stones. Your eyes sting. You blink against snow flurries. The captain paces like the weather doesn't touch him, wrapped in furs, chewing something brown, spitting into the snow. Drills. You knew it. You line up. There's no warm-up. No stretching. Just a spear in your hand, and commands barked in rhythms you've memorized in your marrow. Form ranks. Left face. Advance, brace. You do it over and over until your arms are shaking, until the sweat on your back freezes, until your fingers, stiff from cold, can barely hold the haft of your spear. But you don't stop. Because the last time someone dropped their weapon mid-drill, they made him hold it with both arms outstretched for an hour. He collapsed. They left him there. You keep going. By mid-morning, you're sent to tasks. You draw the short straw wood duty. That means hauling logs from the far side of the keep to the kitchen's slippery slope, icy stairs, splinters through gloves that barely keep your hands dry. But it's not the worst. The worst is cleaning the latrines. You pass the boy who got that task on your way to the stores. He's carrying a bucket that's sloshing with the worst smell you've ever known. He's crying. Not loud. Just silent tears freezing on his cheeks. He won't talk for the rest of the day. You keep your eyes forward. Wood. Chop it. Stack it. Haul it. You do this for hours. Your muscles scream. Your back aches. But there's no stopping. No breaks unless someone vomits or passes out. One man slips on the stairs. He lands hard, doesn't move for a second. The others laugh the way soldiers do when they're too tired to care. But you see the way he limps afterward. He'll feel that for weeks. You wonder if he'll sleep tonight, or just lie awake, teeth clenched, trying not to cry. By midday, you get a break. Food finally. The same pottage. Same bread. Same cup of warm flat ale. You sit on a bench with legs so cold they feel like metal rods. You don't talk. Just eat. Because you're still not done. There's more work. Stone hauling. Stair repair. Arrow sorting. Stall cleaning. Snow shoveling. Whatever the castle needs, you do it. Even if you're tired. Even if you're sore. Even if your clothes are damp and your gloves are frozen solid and the wind is scraping your skin like a knife. Because a soldier doesn't rest in winter. A soldier endures. And it's not just to defend the walls. It's to earn your straw mat at night. Because if you slack, if you skip a task, if you fall behind, you don't sleep with the others. You're punished. Made to stand watch all night. Or sent to the stables to sleep beside the horses. Or worse, sent to the outer guard post, where the wind howls louder and the stone never warms, and men come back with frost-bitten ears and hands they can't feel until spring. You've seen it. You've heard the stories of the men who froze standing up, who were found eyes open, bodies stiff, leaning against the wall like they were just resting. They weren't. So you work. You keep moving. Because the moment you stop moving, the cold wins. And it doesn't kill quickly. It kills like a slow hand wrapping itself around your bones and squeezing tighter and tighter until your fingers won't bend, your legs won't lift, and your mind gets so sleepy it forgets why waking up matters. You work to earn the right to collapse later. Because when night comes, when the torches burn low, and the boots are off, and the straw is half frozen, but it's yours. You'll lie down, every part of you aching. You'll pull your cloak over your head, and you'll sleep. Not because it's warm, not because it's peaceful, but because your body has nothing left. And sometimes, that's the warmest feeling of all. You don't think of yourself as especially holy. You curse. You drink. You've bled. You've killed. You've seen a man lose half his fingers to cold and barely flinch. But still, when the wind screams through the tower like a thing alive, when your hands won't close and your toes have gone numb again. When you lie in your straw mat, breathing shallow, wondering if your chest will stop rising before the sun comes up. You pray. Not like a priest, not like a monk. You pray like a soldier, quietly, desperately. Grimy hands clasped under your cloak, breath steaming through cracked lips. You whisper to Saint Maurice, patron of soldiers. You mumble to Saint Sebastian, pierced and bleeding but still alive. But most of all, you pray to Saint Eligius, patron of armorers, blacksmiths, and men who work with their hands. Because if anyone understands calluses and cold, it's him. There's a small charm tied around your belt, a bit of twine with a carved wooden bead. It's supposed to protect you from frostbite. It doesn't work. But still, you keep it. Because belief is warmth in its own way. There's no fire in the barracks, but faith sometimes feels like fire. Some men wear tiny crosses under their tunics. Others tuck dried herbs in their boots, rosemary, sage, thyme to ward off bad humors. The captain carries a bone fragment, says it's from a saint, but you've seen it, and it looks suspiciously like chicken. Still, no one questions it. Because every soldier has his superstition. One man won't sleep facing east, says that's the direction death walks in from. Another mutters 3 words, always the same, always unintelligible, before he lies down at night. No one knows what they mean. No one asks. Another swears he saw a shadow move near the garderobe during a snowstorm. He hasn't used that toilet since. And then there's the man who keeps a piece of iron under his straw mat. He says it keeps away evil dreams. You say nothing, but you sleep a little closer to him now. Because night is when fear visits. Not the fear of swords or arrows, but of freezing slowly with no one noticing. Of waking to find your fingers black. Of the cold creeping so deep into your bones, you forget your own name. So you do whatever it takes. You pray. You wear charms. You light a candle in the chapel, when you can, even if your breath clouds the flame and your hands shake holding the match. Some men go further. They carve symbols into the wood by their mats. Protection runes, circles with crosses, old symbols from before the church took hold. No one says anything. The priest turns a blind eye. Even he sleeps in wool robes layered 5 deep. Even he is afraid. And if someone dies, you don't just bury them. You place a small coin on their chest to pay whatever waits on the other side. You whisper a few words, sometimes Latin, sometimes nonsense. It doesn't matter. It's not about words. It's about hope. And when you wake up one morning and the man beside you doesn't, you say nothing. You just stare at him. And you whisper to whatever's listening. Not me. Not yet. Because belief is the only insulation you have. Not the cloak, not the boots, not the damp straw that barely holds your shape. Faith is the last warmth. And when you lie down at night, heart still beating, skin still burning from the wind's bite, you close your eyes. You curl into yourself, and you whisper the same words you always do, the ones your mother said when you were small. God, keep me through the cold. Let the dawn find me. Let the breath still come. And sometimes it does. The day is nearly done. Your back is aching. Your legs are tight. Your fingers are stiff from gripping a spear for hours, and your face feels like it's been wind-burnt straight to the bone. You haven't smiled in days. But now it's supper time. You shuffle with the others to the same wooden benches as breakfast near the great courtyard wall. The same pot hangs over the same fire. The same cook, permanently angry, probably freezing ladles, something thick into familiar wooden bowls. You hold yours out. He doesn't look at you. Supper tonight, pottage again. You try not to sigh. You're too tired. It's thicker this time. Oats, beans, some cabbage wilted and stringy. There's a film on top, not grease exactly. Not water either. Something in between. A few lucky men get scraps of salt pork. You don't. Not tonight. You find a bench and sit. The bowl warms your fingers barely. You slurp quietly. It's bland. But not bad. Just the same. Every night. Every week, food is fuel. Not joy. Not flavor. Just enough not to die. Some men tear off chunks of bread if there's any left from the day's batch. It's hard as iron. You soak it in the bowl. You sip from your tin cup. Ale again. Warm, flat, and better than water. Because you've seen what happens to the men who trust the well too often. Supper doesn't last long. Not because anyone's in a rush, but because everyone wants to finish while the fire still burns. The fire is everything. It's not big. just one in a stone pit beside the kitchen wall, shielded from the wind, flickering shadows across cloaks and cracked hands. You move closer after your meal. You don't speak, just sit, knees pulled to your chest, cloak around your shoulders, staring into the flames like they might tell you a warmer story. This is what passes for entertainment, and sometimes it's enough. But on other nights, there's more. Someone produces a bone flute shrill and strange. Another pulls a lute with 2 broken strings and plays anyway. The chords are clumsy, the melody older than the walls. But it feels like music. Sometimes someone sings, a marching song, a dirty tavern verse, a prayer turned into a joke, and around the fire you hear it. Laughter. Not much, not loud, but real. Because here where warmth is fleeting and comfort is borrowed, laughter is rebellion. And then the dice come out. Not carved fancy, just animal knuckles or wood cubes with crude pips burned into them. You throw them in the dirt. Men bet scraps, bread crusts, a sip of ale, a favor. The game is loud. Sudden shouts, groans, laughter that turns into coughing fits. Someone cheats. Someone punches someone else. It doesn't escalate. They're too tired. The guards glance over but say nothing. It's better the soldiers yell at each other here than out on the wall tomorrow. Later, a few of the older men start telling stories. Battle tales, half-true legends, ghosts seen in the woods, strange shadows in the old tower, a soldier who froze to death with a smile on his face and a coin clutched in each hand. You don't ask questions. You just listen. Because the stories aren't about facts. They're about feeling warmer than you are. Some men sit closer together, pass a bottle of something stronger than ale stolen from the steward, no doubt. It burns going down. You sip once, twice. You feel your chest loosen. Your fingers start to twitch back to life. The wind doesn't sting quite as much. And for one brief moment you remember what it's like to feel almost human. But there's a cost. Drink too much. You'll be useless in the morning. Laugh too loudly. The captain might put you on night patrol. Stay too long by the fire, and the chill that hits you when you step away might stop your heart before dawn. So eventually the stories fade. The dice go quiet. The bottle is empty. And one by one the soldiers drift back to the barracks like smoke from the fire itself. No one says goodnight. No one hugs. You just stand, stretch, scratch somewhere impolite, and leave. Because sleep is calling. And while the fire was good, your place on the straw is earned, not given, and the warmth you felt, it's already fading. The fire is out. The benches are empty. The soldiers are back in the barracks, tucked into damp cloaks and straw mats, lying still like corpses waiting to be claimed. And in the darkness, you start to hear it. Coughing. Not polite little throat clears. Not the kind you excuse with a nod and a swig of ale. These are deep, wet, crackling, like something breaking inside. The man across from you lets out a groan. It's not pain exactly, more like surrender. Another cough closer this time. Someone sits up wheezing. You pull your cloak tighter. You pretend you don't hear. You pray that whatever they have stays over there. But you know better. In this room, illness is air. You all breathe the same frozen breath. You sleep pressed together like firewood waiting to be lit. One sick man becomes 10 in a week, 20 by the end of the month. And in winter, there is no escape. The cold doesn't just hurt, It opens the door. It weakens you, slows your blood, makes your lungs damp and your limbs heavy, and your resistance vanish like steam on stone. And once the cold has softened you up, that's when the real trouble comes. Fever. It always starts the same way. You wake up sweating in a room that's still freezing. Your mouth is dry and your bones ache not from work, but from something deeper. Like the marrow itself is trying to escape. You feel it behind your eyes. And worse, you're still cold. So cold even as your body burns. You wrap yourself tighter. You tell no one. Because admitting it is worse than enduring it. Admitting you're sick means being marked. No one wants to sleep beside you. No one wants your chores. No one wants to be the next one coughing up blood on the stone floor. But hiding it doesn't help. Not for long. Eventually, someone sees you shake. Someone sees the blood on your rag. And then they send for the medic. You don't want the medic. Not because he's cruel, but because he's useless. He arrives with a satchel of herbs and guesses. He touches your forehead with fingers colder than the air. He nods solemnly. Sick, he says. Like you didn't already know, he offers you a potion black as pitch, bitter as sin. You drink it. You retch. You drink again. It doesn't help. He lays a poultice on your chest. Hot cloths soaked in vinegar and sage. He lights a bit of rosemary and swings it around your head. For the spirits, he says. You nod. You don't believe it. But belief isn't the point anymore. You're already sinking. And now the barracks knows. You're the sick one. You see the looks. You feel the space around your mat grow wider. No one wants to lie too close. They don't want to die with you. Because that's the fear. Not dying on the battlefield. Not falling from the ramparts. Dying in your bed. On a pile of old straw. Face down in your own sweat. Too weak to call for help. Too cold to care. They say death comes silently in winter. But here you hear it. In every breath that rattles. In every cough that ends too suddenly. In every man who doesn't get up when the captain knocks the wall. And when it happens, it's quick. Not the dying, the removal. The body is rolled up in a cloak. Carried out without a word. No prayers. No candles. Just one less bowl at supper. You don't ask where they go. You don't want to know. Sometimes a few brave ones whisper that the bodies are tossed over the far wall into the woods, where wolves make fast work of the cold meat. Other times they say the corpses are burned. Quieter. Cleaner. But not cleaner here. The mat stays. The lice stay. The air stays thick with what they left behind. And now you're scared. Because you're still breathing. But it hurts. Your chest wheezes when you lie flat. You wake in the night gasping. The medic gives you a syrup made from poppy seed and honey. It dulls everything. You drink it all. And then you sleep. Not restfully. More like falling. Like a stone into a dark, still well. You feel nothing. No cold. No pain. Not even your own breath. And for one terrifying moment, you wonder if you'll wake up. Because that's the final truth no one speaks aloud. Sleep and death feel very similar in winter. Both come in silence. Both creep under your cloak. Both take without asking. But then, a crack of boots on stone, a shout, a bell. You wake. Barely. But you do, and for one more day you're not a corpse on a mat. You're a soldier, cold, sick, shaking, but still here, still standing. And in this castle, that means everything. You lie on your straw mat back to the wall, feet curled under your cloak. The room is filled with men. But tonight, you feel alone. It happens sometimes. After a long day of drills, after hours of cold, after one too many coughs from a bunkmate who won't see spring. Your body is numb, but your mind, it drifts, and it drifts to them. Not the men around you, the ones you left behind. Your mother, your sister, the girl from the village who kissed you once behind the church and gave you a scrap of ribbon for luck. You still carry it, worn, faded, tied around the hilt of your eating knife. You haven't seen her in over a year. She might be married now, or dead, or waiting just like you're waiting to stop feeling so hollow. Because a soldier's life doesn't make space for family. You're a weapon, not a man. A guard, not a son. A body in a row trained to stand, to march, to strike, not to remember how it felt to sit by a hearth and hear your name said with love. And yet, sometimes in the coldest part of night, when the fire has long since died, and even the snorers have gone quiet, you let yourself remember. You remember the sound of your mother's hands wringing out linen by the well. You remember how your little brother laughed when he fell in the mud and didn't care who saw. You remember the warm space under the table where you used to hide with the dog when it snowed. You remember being warm, not just in body, but in being wanted. Here you're useful, nothing more. If you die, they'll find someone else. You've seen it happen. The man who died last week, frozen in his sleep after a shift on the outer wall, had a letter in his bag. Written in a child's hand. A daughter, maybe. A niece. They didn't even open it. They burned it with the rest of his things. No time for sentiment. Not in the barracks. But you remember. You remember what it felt like to belong somewhere. Not to a captain. Not to a castle. But to people. People who waited for you. People who lit a candle at night and whispered, "Please let him be warm. Please let him be safe." Sometimes a soldier has family inside the walls. A wife, maybe a laundress, a cook, a chambermaid. But they live elsewhere. Behind doors you'll never pass, under rules you can't bend. You see them sometimes, at the well, on laundry day, carrying a pale hair wrapped in cloth, face red from cold. You don't speak, you can't. But you look, and for a moment you imagine, what if? What if your bed wasn't straw but wood? What if your cloak was shared not out of desperation, but warmth? What if your body wasn't just tired but held, then the captain walks by, and the moment ends? You're a soldier again. And soldiers don't get homes. They get assignments. They get letters rarely. They get memories. And memories you've learned are sharp. Worse than frostbite. Quieter than death. They sneak in when your guard is down. And they remind you what warmth really meant. Sometimes someone in the barracks talks about family. Usually after drink. Or when they think no one's listening. You hear fragments. She was only 2 when I left. Had my father's hands. Used to sing to me in the stable. You don't reply. You just listen. And in the dark with the lice scratching and the cold pressing in, you all lie there together. Different accents, different villages, different bloodlines. but all dreaming of the same thing: a fire, a face, a place to be wanted. And for a few quiet moments, the barracks feels less like a stone box and more like a shared dream. Then the candle flickers. Someone shifts. Someone coughs. And the spell breaks. You pull your cloak up. You close your eyes. And you sleep. Because in the morning, you'll need to fight again. Not on the field, but against the cold, the emptiness, the feeling that you were meant to be more than just a man dying slowly in wool. The sun is past its peak, though you barely feel it. There's light in the sky, sure, but no warmth. Not in this castle, not in winter. And after morning drills, after hauling stone or chopping wood or standing half frozen on the wall for 2 hours, you're back in the yard. Waiting. Waiting for orders. Waiting for the next task. Waiting for anything other than standing in this cold legs, aching eyes, watering nose, running brain slipping slowly into a tired fog. This is where the real danger begins. Not from enemies, not from swords, but from each other. The men are tired. Some are hungry again. Some are sick still. Some just don't want to be here anymore. But there's no leaving. So instead they turn on each other. It starts small. A muttered insult. A watch where you're going when someone bumps a shoulder. A glance that lingers too long at the bread pile. You ignore it at first. You've seen worse. But tension builds. Because everything here is shared. Shared space, shared food, shared air, shared misery. And no matter how strong your back is, no matter how thick your cloak is, there's only so long you can keep the cold out of your heart. Especially when the man next to you snores loud enough to wake the dead, or smells like he hasn't washed since last season, or keeps forgetting to take his turn emptying the chamber pot in the barracks corner. You told him twice already. He grunted. That's it. You know he heard you. And now you're waiting for him to say something. Anything. He's talking to another soldier near the wall, glancing your way. Laughing. You feel it rise in your throat, not anger exactly. More like pressure. Like if you don't do something soon, the rage will boil over and burn you alive from the inside out. But you're not the only one. Another pair of soldiers down near the armory steps are shouting. It's about a missing scarf. Yes, a scarf. One of them swears it was stolen from his mat. The other swears he's never seen it. Voices rise. Fists clench. You and the others stop what you're doing, ears perked, waiting to see if it breaks into violence. The captain steps in before it does, but barely. He pulls one of them aside and says nothing, just gives a look. That look. And that's worse than a beating. Because now the man knows he's on the list. The next dung duty, the next worst shift on the wall during snow, it's his. Punishment in the barracks doesn't come with ceremony. It comes in cold assignments. Less food. Extra drills. A sore back that never gets time to heal. Still, sometimes it boils over anyway. That night back in the barracks, you hear it. A shout. Then a crash, something breaking against the wall. A cup. A bowl, then a fist hits something soft and living. Another shout. You and 3 others get up fast. It's the scarf man again, swinging wild, face red, eyes wild. The other soldier is on the floor, laughing, blood in his teeth. You step between them. You grab an arm. Another man pulls him back by the cloak. The captain enters. He doesn't yell. He just points. One man to the stables for the night. The other to latrine cleaning. Alone. In the dark, you all go back to your mats. No one says a word, but the air feels different now, tighter. You lie there later that night wondering how long before you snap, how long before someone takes your blanket or throws a boot at your head when you snore. Because the cold doesn't just freeze bodies, it freezes patience. And when you're packed into a stone room with no privacy, no peace, and no way out, even the smallest thing, a stolen crust of bread, a look, a whispered insult, can become a match. And this place, this whole castle, it's made of dry kindling. So you close your eyes, you try to sleep, and you hope that tomorrow, you're not the one who cracks. The fire's long gone. The cook's pot has gone black with soot. The courtyard is silent save for the wind pushing softly at the gate hinges. And the barracks full, dark, heavy. You lie there barely breathing beneath your cloak. The day is over. But the night is its own battle. Not against enemies with swords, not against orders or drills or broken rations. This is a battle against the cold itself. It waits for you. Patient, sharp, clever. It finds the tear in your cloak, the gap between your boots and hose, the edge of your collar where your chest still sweats from the day's work. It seeps in, little by little, like water through stone. You feel it settle behind your knees, along your ribs, between your teeth. And it's not just uncomfortable, it's hunting you. Because out here in this room built of stone and silence, you know the truth no one says aloud. Men die in their sleep, not in war, not with swords, just like this, lying on a mat, wrapped in everything they own, breathing fog into the air, and never exhaling again. You've seen it. A man stiff and pale before dawn, his eyes open, his mouth slightly parted like he was about to say something. They say he just slipped away, but the others say it differently after dark. They say the cold took him, that it watched, waited. And when his body was finally tired enough to stop shivering, it struck. And that's the real fear. Not that it hurts, but that it doesn't. You feel so tired, so heavy, so still. And it would be so easy to just stop, to let the cold win, to stop fighting, to sink into sleep and never rise. Some men do, especially in deep winter, especially after weeks of too little food, too little fire, too much sickness. They lie down and fade out. No one notices until morning. And even then, there's nothing to say. No priest, no funeral, just the captain's nod and 2 men ordered to drag the body out. If the ground is too hard to dig, they burn him. Quick, efficient. Life goes on. But tonight, you're still here, still alive, still feeling everything. Too much, maybe. Because sleep won't come easy, not in this cold, not with that sound down the hall. You know it well. The wheezing, the deep choking cough of someone 3 mats over who won't make it to spring. You hear the shuffle of him sitting up, the harsh pull of breath, then a long silence, then nothing. You wait. You don't want to be the one to check. You just pray he's still breathing. Because if he isn't, you'll sleep beside death tonight. Not for the first time, but it never gets easier. Sometimes the mind plays tricks in the dark. You swear you see something move in the upper corner of the barracks just past the support beam. A shadow that wasn't there before. But there's no one. Nothing. just your own heartbeat loud and too fast. You close your eyes tighter. You curl into yourself. You whisper something, not a prayer exactly, not a name, just something to make the dark feel less alive. You feel the man beside you stir. You don't know his name. He doesn't know yours. But he's warm, and that's all that matters. You shift closer. He doesn't protest. This is survival now. Two bodies pressed together not out of friendship, but necessity. And slowly the cold gives way. Not all of it. Not enough. But just enough to let you drift. Not into dreams. Those don't come often anymore. Just into a kind of stillness. The kind that lets you forget for a few hours how close death lies in the bunk beside you. You'll wake up with cramps, with a sore back, with your boots frozen to the floor again. But you'll wake up. And for a soldier in a castle in winter, that's the only victory that matters. So here you are, still, wrapped in the quiet hum of your own breath, your own warmth, your own bed. But behind your closed eyelids, you can still feel it, can't you? The straw scratching your back, the bitter sting of winter air creeping under your collar, the slow burning ache of cold limbs that haven't stretched properly in weeks. You remember how it felt to lie shoulder to shoulder with 50 other souls, not for closeness, not for friendship, but for heat. Because warmth was never guaranteed. In that world, in that barracks, every breath you took was a small rebellion. You didn't sleep to dream. You slept to survive. Wrapped in a wool cloak that never quite dried, on a floor that never stopped weeping cold. Among men who stopped saying goodnight long ago because not everyone woke up the next morning. But you did. Every time. You woke. With a frozen boot. With a sore shoulder. With a stiff spine and a prayer half finished in your throat. And somehow you went on. You pulled yourself up. You drank the sour ale. You ate the tasteless pottage. You trained. You worked. You endured. Because that's what a soldier was in those stone walls. Not a hero. Not a killer. Not a knight in shining armor. Just a man with a body that refused to quit. A man who learned to sleep in fear, in frost, and in silence. And now here you are, back in your time, in your world, in your bed. It's soft, warm, private. There's no coughing in the corner, no rats chewing at your boots, no wind moaning through the cracks in the wall, no fear that sleep might become something permanent. Just you, your pillow, your blanket, your heartbeat. Safe, steady, modern. You have plumbing. You have medicine. You have central heat. If you get cold, you throw on another blanket. If you get sick, you take a pill. If you can't sleep, you press play, and a soft voice carries you back through time just long enough to make you grateful for where you are now. So take that gratitude. Let it settle into your chest. Let it warm you from the inside out. Because while some men once huddled together in the dark, praying for sunrise, you're here, listening, breathing, drifting, and no one's coming to drag you out of bed before dawn. No one's handing you a spear. No one's yelling your name from the yard. You get to sleep until morning, peacefully, safely, warm. So close your eyes now. Let the echoes of stone fade. Let the wind stop rattling. Let the barracks dissolve behind you. You don't have to sleep on straw tonight. You don't have to wear your boots to bed. You don't have to press yourself against another freezing body just to make it to morning. That was then, and this is now. So tonight, as you breathe a little slower, as your limbs grow heavy, as the last of the old cold leaves your bones, remember, you don't have to wake up in a medieval castle. And you don't have to freeze to sleep. Not anymore. Sleep well.